Hi YouTube. I wanted to make a video today on why you, yes you, should not debate a presuppositionalist. Before I got the opportunity to do that, however, I was alerted to a response video by Phony Beatlemaniacs to my recent video Accounting 101. And I'm really glad that I got a chance to watch his video before making this one, because it gave me the opportunity to have a little bit more integrity with my delivery when it comes to labeling certain people. And so I'm really appreciative of his response video. And so I'm going to adopt a new term. I've purposely avoided the cyclone term. I'm going to call the people that I'm discussing rabid presuppositionalists, hopefully as in an effort to exclude people like Phony Beatlemaniacs, who seems to me to be very reasonable in his approach and delivery and his willingness to have some sort of rational discourse. And the rabid term is just meant to sort of demonstrate the aggressive approach, the almost abusive schoolyard bully tactic approach that certain presuppositional apologists take here on YouTube, and sort of differentiate them from the rest. So again, thanks very much to Phony Beatlemaniacs for that video. And if we're sitting comfortably, let's begin. So a few things have taken place on YouTube in the last little while that I wanted to comment on. The most notably, of course, the Matt Dillahunty, Cy Ten Bruggencate video back and forth, both accusing each other of wrongdoings, and some text comments between a certain well-known rabid presuppositionalist and an atheist, where there's been some ramping up of challenges to enter a debate, and some comments left on my recent video Accounting 101. And this is all formulated, again, I think a good opportunity to encapsulate why I don't think it's beneficial to debate a rabid presuppositionalist. The ramping up of this challenge back and forth to enter a debate between a rabid presuppositionalist and an atheist are really interesting, because the one thing that I've noticed from the rabid presuppositionalist is rejection of any notion that there should be a moderator involved. And there's a very key reason for this. In fact, when the atheist basically finally said, listen, it's moderator or no deal, the whole issue kind of got dropped. The rabid presuppositionalists no longer seemed interested in engaging in a debate. And I think there's a very good reason for this. And it all gets back to this whole notion of accounting for things. When the rabid presuppositionalist says to the atheist, unless you can validate and account for your presuppositions or your worldview without relying on a circularity, you've been reduced to absurdity. And I have the cure, I have the antidote. Now, it should be pointed out, of course, and generally does get pointed out, but it should be pointed out that their worldview, their accounting for their worldview relies on circularity as well. They just throw the label of virtuous circularity on it. But there's a very good reason why they don't want a moderator. And there's a very good reason why the rabid presuppositionalist is very aggressive. You may have noticed this. They're very aggressive and they try to control the dialogue. And this is because they need to keep you in the accounting for phase. They want to keep you on the defensive. Well, why is this? Well, Cy Ten Bruggencate himself has admitted in the past that when he used to engage in evidential apologetics, he used to get beat up a lot, and it was very difficult for him. It was frustrating. And I can imagine why. I mean, I think that's a tough row to hoe. Then I think they developed the perfect way to sidestep all of this. If someone says to them, there are contradictions in the Bible, oh, how do you account for contradictions in your worldview? It's a way of sidestepping the issue of contradictions or errors or any other problems, evil or whatever that's in Scripture. Oh, how do you account for those things given your worldview? And it's a way of diverting the attention from the actual issue, from the evidential argument. And this requires the aggressive approach. This requires a desire to control the conversation. No moderators allowed, please. And so they just want to keep the atheist on the defense, right? You can't account for contradictions and why they're wrong, so therefore your worldview has been reduced to absurdity, and they never have to discuss the actual, in this case, contradictions. There could be many other things that we could put in its place, immorality and different things, right? If you say slavery is immoral, Well, what's morality in your worldview? So they've sidestepped the need to discuss slavery in the Bible. And so this is why they don't want a moderator. Long and short of it, this is why they don't want a moderator involved. Because a moderator would say, well, no. I'm going to ask you the question then, Mr. Theist, on behalf of maybe your opponent, or I'm going to ask a question that you both need to answer. And there's no way for them to sidestep all of that and make the diversion that they like to make. And so this is why you should not debate a rabid presuppositionalist, at least not without a moderator involved. What ends up happening as a result of this is misunderstandings. And I wish not to pick on anyone, but Charles Kunkel actually put a comment on my video Accounting 101. And please, no, I'm not picking on you here. It's just your comment was a perfect example of the misunderstanding that is caused by the particular approach that the rabid presuppositional apologist is taking. Because they end up with giving you the false impression that you can't make truth claims, knowledge claims, charges of morality, and other claims, because they've reduced you to absurdity. And Charles had actually likened it to tools, saying, even if there's a hammer, and I think the hammer came about by natural means, but the apologist thinks that God created the hammer. Either way, we both agree there's a hammer. And yet, Charles' assessment is that the presuppositionalist is saying, no, you can't use the hammer because you can't account for it, your account for it is wrong. But that's actually not what they're saying. No one is disagreeing here. No one is holding your knowledge and other claims, even claims to morality, to question. Just you're accounting for them. And so we end up with this errant notion that the presuppositionalist is saying you can't even use the tool. They're not saying that. Now, they're frustrated by that. They don't like that. They'll say, you don't even understand the presuppositional apologetic. But they have only themselves to blame. And I will repeat this over and over. They have only themselves to blame. They've painted themselves into that corner by approaching things the way they do. The necessity to divert you from focusing on immorality in the Bible, contradictions or errors in the Bible, has made it appear as though they're saying you can't even use those tools. Their own fault. Now, the more astute or whatever in the moment might actually see this and say, no, well, we both agree that I can know things, so let's start from there. Do you disagree that contradictions are a problem? No, I don't disagree that contradictions are a problem. Okay, well, let's set aside my accounting for them for just a moment and let's address the actual contradictions. Let's have some utility in the discussion here. I mean, after all these concepts, logic, reason, rationality, morality, these things are all about utility. These are all about people doing things. If there were no people doing things, none of this would mean anything. There'd be no point to any of it. So to me, utility is paramount. So let's discuss the utility involved. And this is why, again, you can't have a debate with a rabid presuppositionalist without a moderator involved, because they're just going to try to aggressively steer the conversation. And this is why they resort to the bully yard tactics in the ramp up to any potential debate. You'll notice they start taunting. These are schoolyard bully tactics. Aren't you man enough? Come on, mano a mano, put up or shut up, put your money where your mouth is. These kind of things are meant to kind of almost shame someone into engaging in the way that they want to engage. And it's just completely pointless. Now, I don't have that much concern for someone like Matt Dillahunty. He's aggressive enough himself. I think that he could handle himself in a debate with Cy. I just don't think that it's worth the effort, because we all kind of know what's going to take place. And I think this is why Cy is so concerned about being hung up on. Because I think he knows that the particular approach that he takes is one that's likely to get Matt to the point where he's going to say, listen, Cy, either you answer my question or I'm going to hang up on your ass. Now, this to me is not overly aggressive on Matt's part if he resorts to that. He's just responding in kind. I mean, you're either going to engage in an honest discourse or you're not. And if you're going to constantly divert and say, well, you can't even account for these things, so you don't even get to use the tool, just as a way to not discuss the issues at hand, I think that's dishonest. And again, you have nobody to blame but yourself when people interpret that as meaning that you're saying we can't even use the tools. This is a completely reasonable assumption to make after someone has attacked you in that fashion. And I don't think that much good can come from debating a rabid presuppositionalist, except maybe with a moderator. And I think it would even have to be a strong moderator. Recently was brought to my attention a Veritas forum discussion, and it was an atheist-theist type discussion between a couple of professors. And this is the example, I'll link it below. This is the example of real discourse. This is two people with mutual respect, with different worldviews, with a moderator there, and no desire on anyone's part to seemingly claim victory. I think when it comes to utility and debates, the adults at the table recognize that running around declaring victory, sort of Jason Burns or Shock of God style, gets us nowhere. It doesn't do us any good. There's no, in a real debate, the real win is actually for everyone involved. The idea is not for one party to win or lose, but for the silent majority, the people watching the debate, to have both worldviews presented to them in the most intelligent fashion imaginable, and then to be able to come to their own conclusions after the fact. And this is what I saw in the Veritas forum. And a real key ingredient to know that you're involved in either participating in or being an audience member of a debate that's actually going to be really of some utility, really of something that we can all take something away from, is when the question is asked to each party in the debate, what are the problems with your worldview? This is very thought-provoking, and they get one another to comment on it, but each person is asked the question, what is the biggest problem with your worldview? And I think that kind of question is what can really get us towards really expanding our horizons and thinking about these things deeper and not being quite so dogmatic. And that's what real discourse looks like, I think. And I'd be happy to know what most of you think. I apologize if this particular video has been a little bit rambly. I sort of just assembled these thoughts a little bit this morning while I was working, and I got to get back to work. So I thought it's either make the video or don't. I chose to make the video. Thanks for watching.